Welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to Whissel Wednesdays here on AM 1170. The Answer. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with Whissel Realty. Joined as always by Mr. Jason Hall, Team Home Loans. Before the break, we were talking with newly elected and sworn in Mayor of Santee, Mr. John Minto. Solving problems already. First week in the office, big things going with traffic. I love it. And so graciously volunteered for our ribbon cutting ceremony Friday, the 13th of January, 5 to 8 p.m. So if you want to meet the new mayor of Santee, Whissel Realty office on Magnolia, Friday, January 13th. That's crazy! 5 to 8. Mayor John Minto will be there cutting the ribbon with us.
Nice.
I love it. And then so before the break, I kind of teased this. We got Andy Cook in studio, family law specialist. So I was watching the news yesterday, Andy, and they said that divorce rates are the lowest they've been in 35 years.
Yeah, I've heard mixed statistics about that, but for me, the only divorce that's important is the one that a person is going through. And if you are going through one, in some ways you feel like you're all alone and that nobody understands what you're going through. And that's part of what we do, is try to help people get through the process as efficiently as possible. And so maybe the rates have gone down, maybe they've gone up. It's kind of hard to figure out.
It's kind of like real estate, right? It depends where they pull the numbers.
Right, and it's a big country and different states. The laws are different in every state.
Right.
Maybe it's that marijuana is now legal here in California. I was down the street.
Is that going to help?
I was on 30th and University, right down the street from your office yesterday.
Yeah.
I phoned in an order to get some Mexican food, and outside, right in front of the Mexican food, this guy's just smoking up and just smiling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Welcome to 2017.
I know, this is nuts.
Yeah, that hasn't really come up in any of my divorce cases yet. I mean, I think it just became legal in November, but it used to be that one parent would try to say, I deserve custody because he or she smokes pot or once smoked pot. But I think that drug has always been sort of the one that judges were willing to look past.
Overlook wasn't a huge problem, right?
No, especially if the person had once done it. You're trying to decide what's best for the child or children now, and if the parent did it in college or many years ago,
or just inhaled and never exhaled, or whatever.
Well,
is that what President Clinton said?
Never inhaled is what.
Right.
Okay.
The courts are required to consider use of illicit drugs. So anything more serious than marijuana, in other words, any drug that is illegal, the courts have to look at it because it's pretty important.
All right. So Andy, as a family law attorney, I work with a lot of mortgage people, and people, of course, are going to come to Kyle and I when, hey, we're decided to separate, we're going to divorce, we need to sell our house. I want to buy a house, I want to buy a house, and everybody's surprised how long it takes in California, because a lot of mortgage companies, the 1-800-mortgage type of thing, they're done sometimes not even in the United States, but they're most of them not here in California. And I even had a client yesterday was advised, and that's the reason I had a client call you. Just go ahead and file for divorce. It only takes like a week, and then you'll be able to apply. So just so that everybody's listening, if you decide to get divorced in California, what's the average time?
Well, I've always told people that you can expect it to take anywhere from 3 months to a year. That's just something I've come up with. The rule is that from the time that the respondent, that is the person who doesn't seek the divorce, but the other spouse, is given the divorce papers, the earliest that you can legally be divorced and remarry is 6 months from that date. But you can get the paperwork done before then and say, my divorce is over. You just won't be a single person until those 6 months are over. So, but you can get the paperwork done in a rare case in as little as 3 months. But if you're going to have a court hearing, if there's some disputed issues, then the case,
so let's talk about that. When do you have to have a court hearing? Like, what's the difference between that?
Well, if you agree on everything out of court, then you file the court papers, but you don't actually have a court hearing. So if there's a dispute...
So if both parties agree on everything, they just put it in paper and we just go ahead and file it?
Well, it's more than that. You've got to file the petition, then you've got to do declarations of disclosure. And then after that, if there's a marital settlement agreement that resolves all issues and that gets filed with the court, that's sort of abbreviating all the details, then you can be done. And so a lot of people don't go to court. And even those who do, they end up having hearings that resolve some issues temporarily. But in the end, they settle it. For example, the judge might say, this is what custody is going to be now, and then later on in the case, the parties will say, why go back to court? We know what the judge is going to do, and so they'll settle it based on what the judge may have decided or comparable to what the judge may have decided earlier in the case.
So is the biggest fight usually custody? Or is it money or both? Or
yeah, I think it's both. I mean, not necessarily in the same case. Some people fight about custody, don't have any money to fight about. But, child support's important, and spousal support in some ways is even more important, because with child support, you know when that's going to end. I mean, it ends when the child turns 18 or graduates from high school in most cases, whichever is later. But with spousal support, especially if the marriage has been over 10 years, the problem is it can last indefinitely. Or you leave court not knowing when it's going to end, number one. And number two, you don't go into court knowing or having an idea of what the judge is going to do with spousal support. But with child support, the judge has to follow a computerized formula. So spousal support is
more for the judge's decision?
Issue. It basically is the judge's decision. And
is that within it's less than 10 years or over 10 years?
Well, it's the judge's decision
either way,
but if it's less than 10 years, there's a goal that the party be self-sufficient within a reasonable time, which usually means half the length of the marriage. So if I've been married 9 years, then we're looking at 4.5 years. But if it's over 10, then it's open-ended. So I always try to get people to say, hey, look, if you can reach an agreement that says, I'll pay a little bit more than what I want to pay, but I know that after, and you can do anything.
5 years, 10 years, whatever
you
it is.
You could say 6 years and 3.5 months, but it's going to be zero no matter what. Even if you go out and break your arm tonight and can never work again, I don't have to go beyond that date. That gives you some peace of mind.
Yeah, because, taking loans for all these years, I've asked a lot of, guys and gals that have gone through divorce, oh, you have alimony? Yeah. So one of my clients was $10,000 a month. I was like, okay, how long do you have to pay that? Until she gets married. And I looked at this person, and I said, if I was dating her, I don't think we're ever going to get married. I don't care if I'm making $1 million a year, because if she can live off your 10 grand, now think about this, or the guy, either way, right? If a gal or a guy, that is their money that they can spend. They can buy cars, they can waste, and you never have to argue, because that's not the joint family income. That's, the spouse's income. Again, whether that's from the guy because she was, he was married to a successful lady, or a lady who was married to a successful guy. To me, that's always been like, I always tell my wife, I wish you were married before and we're getting like 10 grand a month. Because when I heard that, I was like, it'd be great, because we'd never argue at all the things she likes to spend money on.
Well, so here's the way it works. When any spousal support order, regardless of what the judge says, is going to end either when the payer person dies, the recipient person dies, the recipient person remarries, or further court order, whichever first occurs.
Okay.
So if you do get married, the ball game is over, although you can write into the agreement that if I do get married, that doesn't eliminate my right to get spousal. But if there's nothing written about it one way or another, the default rule, the default rule is you get married and you stop getting spousal support. Now, that doesn't mean that the person who's paying it doesn't have to pay anymore if he or she gets married. It's just the recipient spouse loses it.
So let me ask you,
married.
You've been a divorce attorney, for 20 years. Again, you're listening to 1170 AM. This is Whissel Wednesday. We got Andy Cook with the law offices of Andy Cook. You can reach us 619-663-7355. Have you ever had somebody come to you who was receiving alimony, got married, and didn't realize just what you said, that automatically it's now gone, and they were kind of surprised?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know on those specific facts, but there are people who say, I think that they did get married and my money is still being garnished from my employer. What do we do? Or I think she's engaged and she's going to get married soon. And then to make it even more complicated, there's sort of what I call a halfway rule, which says that if you are cohabitating with a person, there is a presumption of a decreased need for spousal support. So it's not an automatic cutoff, but you can go back to court and say, Judge, this presumption applies. So what you need is evidence that the recipient spouse is A, living with someone, and B,
I'm sure that's interesting
dating.
How they get that stuff, right? Like videos and, they don't probably put themselves on a bill. But here's the thing that you said you need. So here's what I would tell anybody listening. You need a great attorney. Somebody like Andy Cook, law offices of Andy Cook. You need to find somebody when you're going through this. If you've either been through a divorce, possibly thinking about divorce, you need a plan. You need to be prepared, right? I mean, it's a set down, plan that you guys have to go through, right, Andy?
Right. I mean, this is a life-changing experience. The decisions you make now will affect you financially forever. Going through court, and it doesn't have to be family law, it's anything. When you go through something like that, you have to understand that when a judge makes an order, that's not just a suggestion, it's an order, and it has to be complied with. And let me just say one other thing, and that is, unlike any other obligation, if someone gets a judgment against me for not paying their bill, I'm not going to go to jail if I don't pay it. We don't have debtor's prison in this country. But with child support and spousal support, those debts are more important. They outrank everything. And you probably know about this because of what you do. And child support is even more important than spousal support. So child support, you can go to jail for not paying spousal support, or child support and spousal support, actually. And so you want to make sure that you're not just saying, yes, 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 I'm going to agree to this. Let's get this over. Let's not run up attorney's fees. I'm going to agree to anything you say, because if you do, you may end up regretting it later on.
Yeah, maybe the rest of your life.
Possibly.
It's crazy. What other questions you got there, Kyle? You've been kind of quiet here. I know you're never thinking, and I'm not thinking of divorce, but it's always nice to have somebody on and ask those questions, because many of us don't know the stuff that goes on. My dad's been divorced 5 times. So I've had a chance to go through this a few times with Pops, right? And I've been married for 26 years. So we're like
polar opposites.
Yeah, opposites there.
Right. The pendulum swings.
Yeah, sure does.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to head to a break. But when we get back, I want to talk with Andy more about what somebody could do to prevent having to deal with some of these headaches that happen when a divorce occurs. You're listening to Whissel Wednesdays here on AM 1170, The Answer.